Almost got it exact. Boom. Well, welcome to REALMigos. We are waiting for Thomas to join us. He'll be on just a second. Once we see him on the back end, we will jump in live. So we got a really great show tonight. We have a great guest popping on, and I'm super excited. We're going to talk about a lot of topics about Austin developments, the hidden secrets that are development in Austin. So we're going to talk about those things. We have, as always, the Magic Mullet. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Drain.
All right. And then Ian of Austin, Mr. Magic Beret, or what? Wait, Benevolent Beret.
Benevolent, man. I don't know.
It's good to see Ian's back in 8K again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. I know.
I
It's gonna get better. It's gonna get better real soon. Shh, don't tell people.
I don't know that your mic's still working though. It doesn't sound nearly as crispy as it used to.
Yeah, normally you sound really like sexy on there.
Like deep and podcasty.
Yeah. I don't know what your deal is, but
I don't know that it's even picking it up.
Oh, it's good. It's good.
There you go. Now, welcome back to the 7th hour show.
Game.
Yeah.
All right, so big news today. Big news. Ian of Austin, tell everybody your big news, man. You're going to break the big news on this show before everybody else finds out tomorrow. Hit it, dude. Tell people the big news.
We got an accepted contract on our new house last week. I know that's not it. That's not what you're talking about.
What I'm talking about, man.
I'm just kidding. Hit Elite officially.
Nice.
At Real Broker.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's really awesome.
You heard it here first.
Yeah. So Elite is, I was the first to do it. Ian just got it recently. So it's really exciting. It's a big honor. It just shows that you're working your butt off and helping as many people as possible. So congratulations, dude. That's super exciting.
That's really cool. Happy for you, Ian.
Thank you.
Ian did break his arm. He was saving a box of freeway. All right.
Yeah.
All right. So here we go. I'm going to introduce our guest. We got our intros out of the way. Thomas joining us from deep in the heart of Texas, Austin. Tom, how you doing, man?
How's it going, team?
What's up, Tom?
Hey.
Good to finally meet you. So I stumbled across your YouTube channel a while ago. I absolutely, what's kind of funny is your boy, Mitch. I used to play softball with that guy. So,
Mitch Flax.
Yeah. So I found it funny that we have mutual acquaintances there, but, so on this channel, we actually a couple of weeks ago talked about the whole Disney buying land, and I saw that from your channel. So we're going to talk about Disney and all that good stuff. But I want to hear, tell us about yourself. Give us the best intro. Yeah. Who are you? What makes you an authority on development in Austin? And give us some of your background.
Yeah, sure. Thanks. And thanks for having me on. Yeah, so Tom Staud, the CEO of Red Oak Development Group. We started in Arizona back in 2016 doing some resorts and just smaller subdivisions. We have about 80 acres there under development, which will be finishing here in October. We had success there. So we moved back to Austin where I live, right? And as you all know, this is probably the hottest market in the nation. And what you'll see across the nation is just a massive shortage of land for builders. And when you have 184 people moving to Austin per day, 120 that want homes, and you're short 10,000 homes per year in a market that needs it, we saw the opportunity here in Austin. So we buy land up close to Fort Hood for, we build duplexes and triplexes up there for buy and hold investors. We primarily focus right now in the south and southeast part of Austin. So Lockhart, Lulig, Bastrop, Dale, that area where, Elon's building, where his boring company is, where Tesla is, close to where Oracle is building their headquarters. That's our bread and butter. And primarily we're buying land 40 to 100 acres at a time, and we're developing lots from 50 lots per project up to 450 lots per project. So,
wow. So I've always wondered this. So when development, and I know the answer, but maybe other people don't, but when you're doing a development like this or trying to find land for development, where do you come up with the capital to buy land and the process for that? Like, what does that look like for you?
Yeah. So, it's out there, right? We have a variety of sources. I'm now doing a tour, if you will, here in a couple of weeks, partially with Mitch, actually, up in Dallas, but all around Texas and other parts of New York and even California. I'll be out in Dana Point next week talking to a very successful developer to be my main sponsor and capital provider. But more or less, you go to these offices and the story's there. It's a pretty easy story to raise capital on, right? You have Austin, a phenomenal market. It's not crashing despite what some gurus talk about. And I'll hold off on the names for those.
Sure.
But you tell the story of what's happening, and it's pretty obvious that their money's pretty safe in these projects. I'll tell you, we closed a deal last week, a week and a half ago. We raised $7.5 million for it. It'll be 450 lots. We have LOIs for all lots in 3 days.
Wow.
Right. So, and that's from the builders like Taylor Morrison, D.R. Horton, KB Homes, Meritage, David Weekley, Drees. They're all hungry. Right. So with that story in place, and you come to the table with LOIs on the table, we source from wealthy people from California, from New York, and we source from family offices that want to diversify their portfolio. And on top of that, we have hard money guys that come in at 10%, 11% that will supply, half or more of our equity or capital in the deal.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I think it's Meritage too, by the way. That's what I call it.
Yeah, Meritage.
Everybody else like Meritage.
I call it Meritage.
America.
Yeah. The hardest part with a lot of these builders, and we're hearing a lot of the stories, is that, lumber, obviously the cost is coming down, but they're having a tough time just getting resources in general. I had a client last week who just got their windows stolen out of the house. They got delivered and somebody pulled up and stole the windows. So when you're working with you're developing a land like this and you're getting LOIs, are those builders baking into the cake? Are they trying to make any affordable products with that? Like, what does that look like?
Amazing, right? The term affordable. I think right now the only thing that you can produce that's affordable is double wide mobile homes that actually are not bad. Champion and Clayton have done a hell of a job building a decent product now that if you put on a solid foundation, it's 90% of a stick build. Right?
Wait. Another developer that thinks mobile homes are okay. God forbid.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm telling you. In Arizona, we have a small subdivision that's our bread and butter, and we're selling them for $400,000 a piece.
Listen,
right?
Tom, I've been praising mobile homes. I just sold my last mobile home park in Illinois, and I've been praising mobile homes. And I think there's a lot of opportunity there. People make fun of it, but you're right. The quality is totally different, right? The quality of them is totally different.
Yeah, it's right. You're not going to have 45-degree angle great rooms and 12-foot windows and something like that, but you're going to have 9-foot ceilings. You're going to have decent windows. You're going to have studs in the walls, and they're decent nowadays. They're not built for 100 years, but arguably stick builds might not be either. So
the average life expectancy of a mobile home is 65 years.
There you go, right?
Yeah, and if you go look at your tax record, it'll actually tell you how many years of expectancy is left on your house.
Yeah, and by the way, the FHA 3 months ago just passed a financing act to now begin to approve financing on mobile homes without owning the land.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
That's cool.
we have a lot of rowdy guests in here. Master Jedi.
No, I love it. That's a good one.
Master Jedi is actually who put me onto your channel. So appreciate that. So he does
Absolutely
like mini me. So, the big hubbub around Austin is, you mentioned briefly that we hear that the Austin market's going to crash or that we're in this speculative bubble. Walk us through. You're a developer. You're trying to buy land right now. Why is it that if the market is crashing, why the hell are you still trying to buy land?
Well, it's just not. I'll just give you a few examples of real life backlogs that we have. Right, one, the builders right now. This guy's on fire. If you look at the builders and you just listen to any earnings report, 35+% of their demand is in backlog, right? So they already have a massive need to build more supply for the back orders, right? We have 220 investors waiting to buy duplexes up north. Now, if we assume 2/3 convert, we have 140 units that we can sell tomorrow, right? When you look at where we see the market and what we see happening is that developers, they're a little scared, right? You hear all this stuff in the news. So what they're doing is they're just building higher density. So what that means is you might have been able to get a half-acre lot back in the day. It went down to a quarter acre. Well, now you're talking about 6,000 square feet lots, right? So 0.12 acres. So they're doing higher volume. They're, instead of using 2x6s in the walls, they're using 2x4s, right? Cheaper. Instead of doing 16-inch gaps between the studs, they're now doing 22 inches between the studs. They're not doing pitch roofs anymore. They're doing 9-foot flat ceilings. They're learning ways to reduce the cost. And at the same time, they're taking bigger margins on these price increases. Now, I think most people that are looking at the market, including Austin, see a plateau coming. In a plateau with some decent appreciation, 3 to 5% year over year, I don't think anyone's really predicting massive corrections. And no one that I talk to 18 months out from now are either. So
I want these guys to chime in, but I do have a question. Here's been my thought on my channel, and I've talked about this over and over. And I just want to, from your perspective, obviously you see things differently than we see them. My perspective is this. There's a lot of factors. So I saw a video the other day that said that the reason why realtors are lying to you is the fact that we're saying so many people are moving here. And if you look at the trends, it's not as many people as you actually think. In fact, that data was inconclusive because it went through 2020. In the middle of 2020, we had a pandemic, and a lot of those people started moving towards the end. So that went through July 2020. And if you look, so we had 67,000 people move here 2020. We're estimated so far around 73 to 75,000 this year. Mm-hmm. But in my perspective, I'm looking at it going, there's so many jobs and businesses still moving here. There's a lot that moved here in 2020. There's a lot still that are coming through 2023, through 2024. So that speculative bubble, that's 37%. People are speculating on the growth of Austin. Now they could be wrong, right? But like you said, there's a backlog, 35%, 31% for these people. My perception is this: interest rates will rise. Obviously, I don't think anybody's hiding the ball on that or saying they won't. At a certain point, prices are going to get a little too unaffordable. In my opinion, I'm not seeing a correction where we're coming down 35% that's been projected. I'm saying is, if we have inflation's part of the equation, we have speculation's part of the equation, people actually moving here is part of the equation, and then interest rates, at a certain point, we will start to level off. And my prediction is the beginning of next year, we'll see 4 to 5% gains, 6% gains, but we're not going to see this 37, 40% gains that we've seen this year. I mean, do you feel my assessment in that is right? Or
partially, I think you have to take it a level deeper, right?
Okay.
One, I mean, Austin's Austin, Travis County, right? I think the core of Austin's its own little beast. Downtown's its own little beast. Terrytown's its own little beast, right? But if you go north, and we'll talk about Disney if you want in a minute, but Gerald and I think Belton, I'll tell you, there's a lot of activity up there in Belton and Temple right now. I've been trying to buy a house for my 1031 exchanges, and I'm getting outbid left and right with all cash offers, way above asking, right? Because you're in that price point of $225,000 to $300,000. And I think anywhere across the nation, if you're in that price point, there's going to be strong demand no matter what happens, right? No matter if rates go up, that segment is the hardest to get, whether you're in and you have renters, or I'm sorry, not renters, investors that want to buy that segment. You have entry-level buyers that want to buy that segment. You have even people that want to move up from their, condo that costs 150 now to the next level. That's move up territory too. So you have a lot of demand in that segment. So if you're in that segment, I think you're safe for a long time. I think where we might see some softening is when the smart money gets a little worried and stops buying those move up homes or the 1 million plus homes. But I think anything between $250,000 to $600,000 is safe for some time. I think it's everything else outside of those that bell curve that we have to watch. And even within Austin, I mean, again, I was on a conference call just last month with Zonda. It's an awesome database. And they talk to the biggest builders and they say, where are you moving next? What's in your forecast? And they all see positive growth. They all see development happening, and they're all moving southeast and upper north of Austin, as well as Dripping Springs and out towards Johnson City and out towards the wine country, right? I have a developer that I won't say his name, but he's a very big player in Austin, one of the biggest. His dad came from money. He's got a ton of money from his development, and he's buying hundreds of acres out in Fredericksburg, up in outside of Marble Falls, Horseshoe Bay, beyond Liberty Hill and Florence. And so there's a lot of guys coming in right now buying and holding, waiting for a more appreciation, for the price appreciation to continue. So there's a lot of tailwinds for us developers, us builders. We don't see much headwinds at all.
Interesting. Ian's got a question he's dying to ask you.
Disney.
Do I? So I think the question I would ask is, do you feel that Open Door, Zillow, those types of companies, they're doing kind of that same thing, just market absorption, trying to retain properties since they can't get acres of land. Maybe they are getting acres of land that we don't know about.
Open Door, man. Have you ever been inside of an Open Door property?
Oh yeah.
What are your thoughts?
It's okay.
Positive.
At least,
look, dude. I
at least the other ones do better work.
Model. It's a great model, great concept. But the craftsmanship is some of the worst I've ever seen. You see half-inch gaps in the quarter of the baseboards, and the same, cheap carpet across all the properties. They have a good model, and I think Redfin and Zillow are going to eat the lunch of a lot of realtors if the experience is just transactional. Most realtors that I come across are transactional, and the ones that are really solid have a long book of business, right? So.
I've always found it funny that people or agents spend so much money on Zillow leads. Like, you do realize you're paying the people that will replace you, correct? You do understand that? Like, that is fine. If you can't find business, there's ways to do it. Just do it. Like, find business, but paying $13,000 a month. Go ahead.
Let's make everybody mad right here. That's the same as going out and buying McDonald's. Like, it's not good for you. But sometimes you feel like you need it.
Those fries, though, man.
I know. That's 300 burpees right there.
I'm going to play devil's advocate too. So they've already decoupled buyer leads from the listings, right? What choice do you have? I mean, not that you don't have a choice. You can go to traditional approaches, but if you don't already have a substantial book of business as a real estate agent, why wouldn't you? And I'm actually saying this because that's how I started my business. I didn't know anybody in Austin. I didn't know anyone. It's like, how the hell am I supposed to sell a home if I don't know anyone? So what do? I went to Zillow, and don't get me wrong, it was expensive to do that. But between them, I was able to pay for, it justifies the dollar that you spend, but you can't do that forever and be on it. But the question is, for something like that, is that just the way that all these sites are going to go? Anytime somebody searches online, are they going to try to decouple the lead? I mean, Zillow does it, Realtor.com does it. Is everybody going to do that eventually?
Yeah, I think I'm not an agent myself, but I think the replacement factor of agents will take longer than something like title companies. I think that's like those companies, property management companies. I think that's going to go out a lot faster than agents. I don't know if it's Lennar or if it's D.R. Horton that just acquired a tech platform that does all title closings digitally, and it takes 3 days versus 2 to 3 weeks, right? So that's where I think you're going to see a lot of replacement Agents will probably happen eventually, but people still want to shake hands. They still want to meet people. That's a little different, right? No one likes waiting 2 weeks through title and closing, right?
I used one of these virtual title companies, by the way.
What'd you think?
I will never do it again. It was a disaster.
I think it all boils down.
It
to
was
the
a
experience.
disaster. It was a disaster. It was the worst title transaction I've ever had in my life.
Really?
Yeah, and I'm not saying that it won't eventually be a good thing. I think there's a lot of headway that needs to be made there. I think that with the the way that the market moves, eventually has to update itself. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it'll probably improve. I use a digital platform. My friend's the founder of Hemline.com, and she, I was one of the guinea pigs, and it was terrible back in 2015. And now it's fantastic. So
I had that same situation with a virtual title company, and the funding. So the closing happened. The funding was 13 days late.
What? 13 days?
13 days late.
Well, for people that don't understand what we're talking about, so when we write up a contract, typically we have to send it somewhere and they do the title work on it, make sure there's no liens, there's nothing on the property that's going to hold it from selling. Every realtor usually will have a good relationship with a title company where they usually send most of their business to, right? So these title companies do need agents. They do need lenders, because if lenders are doing a refi, the refi still got to go through a title company. So what we're saying is that the people that are kind of like the paper pushers of the whole contract, like if you take that out and go digital, it's very possible, but you do lose a lot of the systems that make it. I mean, you take out some human error, but you add tech error. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong with that. But I do want to get to the very big thing. You talked about Disney. I want to ask about Disney. Master Jedi wants to ask about Disney. Is Disney moving? And I was wrong. I said Lockhart because I think you were talking about Lockhart, but it's you came out and said
So I'll give you. I won't mention any names because I've got to stay true to the handshakes. But so I have two partners out of Houston that are very big players. They're basically the builder that's building all of Georgetown, for example. So they're very prominent up in the north. They have 6,000 lots right next to an area of Gerald. If you haven't noticed, driving up there towards Gerald, there's a massive sewer line that's been being built for the last 12 months. That's odd. I only see one development by D.R. Horton, and it's like a 36-inch diameter sewage line. So massive, right? And if I'm Disney and I think about where I'd want to be either building a new park or potentially building a park to replace the California debacle, I mean, Gerald is prime, right? And we know back in September 2020, there was rumors that they were buying land. And when you think about buying land, we knew that it was around 9,000 acres, okay? Something that size typically comes with what is called a feasibility period. Now, in today's market, we get 60 days to look at a property before we buy it. Well, something that big back in 2020 was probably like 12 months, right? And 12 months from September 2020, where does that put you? August of 2021, right? So we know five brokers that are working on the deal. It's a massive deal. It ended up being 7,900 acres in Gerald. We believe they got it for around $60 million, which is a phenomenal price for the land. It's about 1/3 what it should be. So there's that.
That sounded low to me when I heard that figure, 60 million. It sounded like it needed to be, in the hundreds of millions.
Yeah, it's probably 3 to 4x. Well, today's probably 3-4x that. Now, a year ago they probably got half off on that deal, but it's Disney, right? And first of all, it's not going to be under the Disney LLC company. It's going to be under some property company, because everyone, including us that buy land, we have a property company that buys it, and then we have an entity that manages it. You don't couple the two. So it's probably some random LLC that owns it. It's a $60 million deal, give or take, 7,900 acres down from 9,000. My partners own 6,000 lots, literally 5 minutes from it. My mentor, GP, on a lot of my deals, he's one of the biggest developers in Hawaii and California. He builds for all Marriott and any Century Theater in California he built. There's no hotels up there. So he and I next week are going to be meeting out in Dana Point to talk about building hotels up in Gerald as well, right? So we also know one of the agents with one of the brokers that were on the deal, and I won't name a name, but that's how we got first line intel. So, who knows? The rumor is that the first part of the park will be open by 2025. So you'll see shovel in the dirt by 2023 or late 2022.
So you are saying that they are going to put a park 7,900 acres or 9,000 acres, whatever it's going to be. Your estimation is that there will be a Disney park in Austin. Well, Gerald.
Yeah, well, we're raising $9 million to close on those lots, so it better.
Talk about speculation. Geez. So that's awesome. I mean, that's it's great to have somebody on the channel that can talk about the development side of this, because I mean, as realtors, we hear about developments, but we're not really always privy to what happens with these developments.
Yeah.
So you're telling me the process for that really does take an entire year before they can actually close on that?
Yeah, I mean,
or get close.
Yeah, so I'll give you just a quick 30-second overview of in Lulig. We're actually one of the first builders that are building something in Lulig, which is southwest of Lockhart, 15 minutes east of San Marcos. We're building a 50 lot community, 1 acre lots. Think of it like modern farmhouse.
1 acre lots. Wow.
Yeah. One septic. So $600,000, 1 acre lots, modern farmhouse kind of style. We're the first builder there, right? First movers. Now, the city loves us. We have great connections. Permits take 4 to 6 months in a very pro-build city. Gerald's roughly the same, 6 to 8 months. But our feasibility is 60 days. So now we're talking 6 to 8 months to build out the horizontal, as it's called, which is the land and the utilities, are 6 to 8 months. So you got a year and a half before you can even build a structure on the land, right? Yep, there you go. So it might have been, Angela just made a comment, but it was either Lennar or DR Horton. They built like a 100-unit community up there in that low 200 price point. It's all sold out.
They're both in there, Lennar and DR Horton.
Yeah,
Starlight now.
Yeah, so Disney's probably looking at 18 months to 2 years to get the utilities in, the infrastructure. So that puts us into 2023 before they start building structures, right? So it all lines up to what you would think in terms of timing. I don't know why Disney doesn't come out and just say we invested in 8,000 acres in North Austin.
Because it'd be a feeding frenzy, I would guess.
You think so?
I think people would start panic buying pretty fast.
Well, look what happened.
It's hard enough for people to get houses. I mean,
yeah.
I mean, that's right now. I mean, if you look at our market was already hot to begin with, but once the announcement of Tesla came, I think that's where the speculation grew. My phone, for 6 months straight, every day was an investor calling and the words out of their mouth was Tesla, I want to be Southeast. So, so for you, being a developer, looking at this craziness of Austin, looking at the fact that, we might have Disney up north, Samsung might be going up towards Taylor. There's a ton of development that's still coming out. So if Disney were to announce and Samsung were to announce, what do you think happens to our market then?
Well, I can already tell you it's already happening, right? I talked to the builders. I had, again, Zonda, I use that. We can get reports on how many lots are being permitted, bought. The city of Belton and Temple we're close with. They've given us a breakdown of what's coming. Builders are already predicting that Belton and Temple are going to blow up because of Disney, being 20 minutes away. So that whole area is going to have thousands of homes here in the next 2 years. I think Lockhart too is set up really nicely for a boom. Bastrop. There's also the rumor of the Buffalo Bills coming to Austin. Have you seen that?
I saw that, and then you did a video kind of briefly talking about it. But yeah, I highly doubt the Buffalo Bills will come here.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I do have a connection that knows someone on the leasing side. I guess they haven't renewed their lease yet. I know Austin's trying to recruit them, but at some point someone's going to come here, right? So
yeah, it's only a matter of time, right? And where are they going to build that stadium? They're not.
Well, look at Austin FC soccer, and it's sold out.
Yeah,
I know.
You're right.
The fans are here for a new stadium, but
this is why, right? This comment right here is exactly why I think we won't see a football team here.
Yeah, he's already said that, but eventually he's not going to be there anymore running the show in Dallas, right?
How old is he?
I mean, he's got to be like 80. Anybody?
It never
I think
ages.
he's 80.
Yeah, and he was doing some spoof there today, talking about how much Whataburger he eats, and I'm like, dude, continue. I mean, you won't be here much longer if you keep eating all that.
I'm gonna keep my mouth shut.
Whataburger's gross. Sorry, In-N-Out's where it's
Yep.
at. All right, so you said Lockhart would be a good spot. What are other Rohit always jumps in and wants to know about Hutto? What do you think? So if Samsung announces, if Disney announces, who else are we talking about? The Buffalo Bills. Let's say they announce. Where do you think, if you're an investor, obviously this is what you do. If you're an investor, where are you looking? I mean, number one, where are you as an investor looking primarily? And what are the top 5? If you were going to buy developments, where are those top 5 at?
Yeah. So for land, you have to pick markets that are not yet booming, right? So there's not much left. Lulig and around Lockhart is still a little bit under the radar. Prices are skyrocketing very quickly. I still think up in Belton Temple area, it's not a huge demand for homes. They can absorb about 100 homes per month. So you have to be careful on how much supply you put in the market, but land's relatively cheap up there. Going out past like Florence and out northwest, it's pretty strong. Taylor's gonna just like Bastrop, you can't really find good deals. They're decent deals, but they're not home run deals left. I just got a deal today in Taylor for 50 acres for $2.9 million with no sewer. It's like, nope. So
Yeah,
to put it in perspective, 8 months ago, I could get an acre for about $28,000, right, with septic. That's more than doubled from today, right? Georgetown, an acre is like 100 and a half for septic. I mean, it's crazy. So I don't know. I know a lot of guys are moving out far west, out towards wine country, out towards Marble Falls. The numbers work out there and in Spicewood. No one's really going far east though, like beyond Taylor and Hutto and all that. No one's going beyond those markets. So curious to see what happens there.
But is there a good reason though that they're not? Because I feel like sometimes in some areas there's a good reason why it's been left.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have that answer, but off the cuff, I would say there's no lake, there's no hill country, there's no wine country. It's not as pretty. It's kind of flat and just kind of boring, right?
You still have Granger out there, right? And then in Thrall, and more in East Taylor, you have DR, you have Syntax, you have a lot of people out there. You have some 1 acre lots, big builders or not big, but more custom home builders. So they're moving out there. They're just slowly going out that way, it seems like. And I just did a deal in Thrall. People were excited. They sold their land in Maynard to buy in Thrall.
Were they enthralled?
You know what we are seeing, and it's kind of an indication of where the progress is moving. Is we first saw developers buying big chunks of land and then subdividing into 5 acre lots and selling this like ranch vision. That's kind of been consistent across the board. That's usually the first move. Is you get developers, they'll buy 100 acres, they'll make 18, 20 ranch style 5 acre plots and sell them pretty quickly. And then over time it just shrinks. All right. So I mean, in Lockhart, just a year ago, you would have had to sell 3 acre lots in these like mini ranches. Now they're down to 1 acre a piece.
So why don't we just go start a city then?
Yeah,
we
right.
could just go buy some land in the middle of nowhere, and I could call it Mulletville or something like that.
Mulletville. Yeah.
We could put a post office downtown and make a nice little downtown. It'd be like Celebrations Village or whatever they call that in Kissimmee, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever been down there?
No.
It's like it's like a Disney theme park, like in a housing complex, had a baby. So it's kind of like half theme park, half people live there. So we could probably do the same thing. Have an Old West style, like with saloons and stuff.
Oh, 100%. If you build like a brewery, like a saloon style brewery, or you need like 1 or 2 restaurants, you don't need much.
Who wants to start a city with me?
Me. We've got the ghost town and stuff over here. It's pretty cool. I mean, we've got stuff like that.
Let's do it.
But to answer Rohit's question from earlier, I did 3 contracts between yesterday and today in Hutto alone.
Yeah.
It's.
I mean, what's the range and price point there though?
Low 3s.
Low threes. No, I said though, but I meant like, what is the price point? Because that's like, if you're looking at what's affordable, people are going towards Hutto for that reason. So like in my mind, in my top 5 places that are going to see continued growth, obviously I'm all about New Braunfels, which is, I mean, not really our area, but I think, Maynard's still going to grow. Hutto's still going to grow. Kyle by far, as I've been saying for the longest time, that is the most underrated spot to be. I think those are mine. Bastrop, I see Bastrop growing, but I think I don't think Bastrop wants to grow. And so it's getting expensive for that reason, but Kyle wants to grow. So I think as an investment standpoint, the fact that Kyle does want to grow and they are willing to push things through makes that attractive to me. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, well, there's one stat that I posted months ago. So the population today in the Austin MSA is like what, 1.9 million, give or take, 2.1 in that range.
Yeah. Well, I just saw a stat was 2.2.
Oh, jeez, wow.
Yeah.
But by the year 2040, the population will be 4.5 million. Okay, so we all know.
Sorry, say what year again?
I think that was assuming pre-pandemic, right? Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's just exploded since then.
Yeah. So, let's just say 4.5 million, right, in the next 18 years, right? That's massive growth. Yeah, there you go. Okay. Yeah. So, supply and demand.
We don't even have accurate numbers. Look at that.
Yeah, well, we don't have 2021 numbers. That's a problem. This only goes through July of 2020. Right. So,
and anyway, what's important too is to compare this against the nation, right? The nation's population is actually decelerating, which is amazing when you see this, right? And the population's growing at like a 0.8% clip year over year across the nation. So this is 4 times faster than the nation average. So, and we're still behind on development. So when you talk about where would you buy, I think anywhere, frankly, within Austin that has a $200,000 to $500,000 price point is set up really nicely for the long term.
So to go to your point right here, I had this stat ready because I knew you were going to talk about this, because this is one of the points that one person who keeps saying Austin's going to crash. He keeps saying that, okay, there's a 50% increase. Where he got that number, I don't know, but in new build starts. There's one factor in new build starts that people just don't understand. A start does not mean a completion. 100%. Even though this stuff started last year, I have clients that have been under contract since May and June that still have not closed their properties because everything kept getting pushed out. And the lumber prices were part of it. A lot of things they've had to move to different, all this stuff. So there was a ton of starts last year, but they're not closed products.
Not even close.
Yeah. And so if you look at this graph too, so this is comparing population increase. So we've had a pretty consistent population increase, except for 2009 and 2010, we had a big dip, but the 2011 went back up. But this graph right here is showing you that we've been behind on new build starts for a decade. And the fact that we're behind, and we were starting to catch up here. I mean, we're starting to get a little more even, but the fact that we've still been behind, you even said that we have a backlog of 10,000 per year, I think is what you said, a backlog of 10,000 residences to purchase. So that's why we're seeing a 37% increase. So
100%.
People going out there telling you that realtors are telling you, oh, it's because people are moving here. That's one aspect, yes, but it's not the full picture. I hate when people try to say, here's the big whole pie, but I'm going to show you 2 parts of the whole pie.
Right.
That pisses me off because it's not just the one piece. And realtors are going to say stuff like, oh, okay, yeah, there's so many people moving here. But Kevin, Ian, your phone rings. How many buyers out of 10 buyers, how many of them are out of state and how many of them are in state?
I'm going to guess. Hold on. I'm going to guess 8.
That's exactly at 7 or 8.
7 or 8. Every time. And so if you're a realtor and all you're doing is getting phone calls from people outside, even if they don't move here, your perception is that there's a lot of people moving here. And so that is part of the reason why you're seeing prices go up. Anyway. Yeah.
Well, so a fact that yesterday I put it on a podcast when talking to builders and agents and trying to determine how many people are moving into the location that they're buying, roughly 50% are moving into the location that they're buying. So this is across the nation, not just in Austin, right? That's great. And so, but back to that graph, exactly. There's probably 250,000, homes in under supply already. So until that chart flips substantially, where we're 20, 30,000 permits above population growth, I don't see how we close that gap, and I don't see how we begin to crash. And by the way, if we do crash, don't forget, Wall Street now sees real estate as an asset class. So there's billions of dollars on the sidelines waiting to gobble up single family rentals.
I mean, they're doing it right now too.
Exactly. So
you're hearing about BlackRock and all these other companies.
100%. If there's any crash coming, that will be absorbed quickly by the Wall Street banks.
Hot take: if it's a crash, it will be intentional.
Yeah.
So they can pick up assets.
Well, that, and think about too, all the people that have been sitting on the sidelines doing FHA, VA 3.5% down that have been iced out for the last year, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of those people will be back in, but at what cost? And this is what there's one aspect of this, and interest rates are a part of it. And I did the math on this. So right now, if you bought a $500,000 house in Austin, based on the basic tax rate, everything at a 3% interest rate right now, it would cost you about 20% down. It would cost you about $2,600 a month would be your mortgage. The only way to make that make sense, if let's say, 4.25 is a realistic interest rate, because we've seen that in the last couple of years. So let's say interest rates go to 4.25 or higher. I'm just going to say 4.25. That price would need to come down to 4.25 for it to be the same thing. Yes, you're paying more money down for the $500,000 house, right? It is an aspect. At the same time, is it going to drop 15%? So you have a lot of people sitting on the sideline that are hearing these people say, "Oh, it's going to crash." And now I'm not telling you to buy a house. I'm not. If it's not in your best interest right now, don't do it. But people are telling you not to buy because there's a crash coming. If that crash does not come, what is that cost going to be to you when interest rates are higher?
Well, and further to that, if you're going to be buying, like when I envision what Austin's going to be, I'm thinking 20 and 30 years from now. I'm not thinking 5 years from now. So like you have to change your horizon a little bit. If you're thinking about you're going to buy a house, buy the house because the investment is going to be longer term. Like how much of that's going to happen? And my thing is I always want people to buy as close to Austin as is humanly possible, because you think 20 years from now, if you own a property that's in the city of limits of Austin, that's going to be so rare, not rare, but there's obviously the same number of houses, but the value is going to be much, much greater than if you're buying an investment property in Thrall right now,
Yeah. I look to samples for like where the ceiling is, and you look at Terrytown, right? And it's a nice area, very nice. And so maybe you take a haircut off that ceiling price, but Terrytown is going for prices that we would see in like the Hamptons and it's just, so I don't know if the ceiling slows. I will say in Easton Park, they had a house for $800,000, which is crazy because the average house was like $500,000 a year ago. And they just recently did a haircut on that. So there is some slowing on the ceilings there, but we're definitely living in a premium market.
So you know where the Grove is? So I've got a buddy who's the Grove in Oakmont, near Oakmont.
In North Austin?
Yes. No, 45th Street.
Yeah, 45. So I have a buddy who has a house over there, and he said the house across the street sold for like $850,000, and then they tore it down and they're building another house. Like just one. I'm like an $800,000 tear down.
Yeah,
right.
In
Really?
North Austin. You're 4 or 5 minutes from downtown from there. It's not far.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So, Tom, we've talked about a lot of different things on this so far, but let's say the market does crash. What is your estimate? How far can the market crash in Austin?
Yeah, well, I think it depends who you talk to. In our deals, we're easily finding deals that we're covered down to a 25% correction in land prices, and we still make money. Now, I don't think it's going to happen. And if you just do the math, typically land is about 20-25% of the overall sale price, right? So if I'm selling lots for $100,000, they go down to $80,000. The homes would come down from $400,000 to like $350,000, give or take. Don't think that's going to happen. again, I think it depends on which area that you're buying. If it's the $250,000 to $500,000, I don't think it's going to crash. I think the luxury market might slow and maybe it corrects 5-10% if you're lucky. But I don't see the story of a crash, and so I can't even predict what would happen. I mean, what do you all think?
I mean, I've been fighting against this for a long time because I don't see that it's ever even going to happen. And I've been saying, Tom, you and I are on the same page. I've been saying the stuff that you're saying right now for months when people are like, oh, there's going to be a crash. Like, okay, fine. It'll be absorbed so fast. I have investors right now. Like I had an investor email me and said, hey, if you come across any opportunity, just a random guy, like one of these new Western guys or whatever. If you come across these opportunities, I've got buyers that are ready to go. And I was like, do you realize how many people that I have sitting around with money right now that are ready to buy? Do you think I'm going to send you one? Do you think I'm going to send you one? Like my clients are starving right now. They're starving for opportunities. They're ready to pounce. I just don't see this happening anytime soon. Yeah.
I think from an investor standpoint, and Austin doesn't have as much investors as like a Phoenix or a Vegas per se, but cap rates have to get down to like 3-4% to see any sort of risk there. And they're still, 5-6, maybe 4 to 6 in Austin.
I think I've seen stuff that's way lower. I've seen 2 and 3. Yeah. I mean, and people still buying.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's, but on the tertiary or the fringe areas of Austin, you can still get 4 to 6, right? I mean, up in Manor, maybe.
It's probably okay. But you can't borrow money and make money off of that.
No, that's true. Yeah. It's all cash buy.
It's all cash.
Yeah.
How do you think property taxes are impacting investors? Because that's one thing I've talked about on the channel over and over and over and over again is property taxes. I mean, there's really no end in sight to how much property taxes will go up. As a developer, what are you looking at for property taxes? How do you put that in? And do you think property taxes could be a problem for Austin and some of these tertiaries?
Oh, 100%, right? I mean, look at the failed state of California, right? What made it fail? There's a few things.
I'm from California.
Dude, I used to live there.
Why are you from there? I think is the question.
That's the whole point.
2 main things, right? High regulation. It has 3 times the regulations of any other state, and it has the highest income tax, of any state. And property taxes are still 1.5%. So you lose half your income living there. So going back to that equation, if Texas stays no income tax, I've done the math. It still makes sense even paying higher property tax if you own. So 2.9 is high. As a developer, it's quite the opposite. If you know of the Robert Kiyosaki cash flow quadrant, right? They create tax programs to incentivize developers like myself. So when you look at your property tax on these new developments, you probably see this PID tax or this MUD tax, right? Well, those are programs that we go to the Texas Congress and say, hey, look, we want to create a MUD. What that means is I'm going to build out the sewer, the water, all the utilities, and you're going to reimburse me almost half of my cost. Now, how do they pay for that? They turn around and they charge you all or whoever's buying the homes that 0.7% tax. Now that's an interesting way to do it, right? It's funding the infrastructure cost. So there's a variety of ways that you can take revenues from the state and do that, but I think it's one that's pretty creative. I think the problem that we should be talking about is the reassessments, right? It's what, every year, every 2 years. That's where I think there's some risk in Texas is they're constantly reassessing these properties, and locals that have lived here that are now getting taxed on 2x the value of their homes are pissed because now their tax bills have doubled, right? And so I think that's the elephant in the room that hasn't gotten enough attention. So
on the FUBAR where it was the data was all shared a couple of years back.
Yeah, that accident, right?
Accident.
I'm sure it was accidental.
Yeah. Well, here's one too. I live in a new development and I'm building another one, but by the way, it's been 2 years and there's not even a foundation poured yet. But anyways, they sent out letters to us.
How many are starts, right? That's the question.
Exactly right. Yeah. They sent out these letters, voluntary questionnaires to new homeowners, saying, what do you think your house is worth? What did you pay for it? So, and people are probably answering these questionnaires. So they're definitely interested in assessing property values left and right, which is really concerning for, long-term value.
Reminder: if you're moving to Texas, this is a non-disclosure state.
Yeah.
Reminder.
Well, here's a big problem. So the TCAD said they went to another program. So they were buying our proprietary data from CoreLogic. That's why there was a lawsuit. But they went to another program. The tough part is if you go to Redfin and you click on, sign up, you can look at sold data through there. So Redfin so all of you people are using Redfin. Redfin is giving out your sold data. So part of the reason why your property tax is going up, if I'm this company, I just go, okay, hey, look, I'm going to go into Redfin, sign up account and get all the sales data, download it, put it up, and then sell it to TCAD. I mean, why not?
That's just like the realtors using Zillow argument. It's like, you can't win for losing. You like the data, but it's actually hurting you.
Yeah, and don't forget,
share the data.
Redfin's probably a California company, so they have no interest in Texas well-being. So
yeah, I love Redfin and capitalism. Get out of here, off the channel, blocked for life.
Get out of here.
Banned.
How dare you even mention capitalism in this channel? So Tom, of the stuff that you're developing, like think of all the projects, are you guys even remotely interested in offering something that would be like an affordable, like an entry level option? Or when you're working with your investors, I mean, I'm pretty sure I know the answer to this. Like, are you hitting that middle price point and that you think that's your sweet spot? Or do you think there's
this is what I'll tell you. If I could produce a home, so I only do some vertical builds, mostly horizontal. So utilities is my bread and butter. When it makes sense, small projects, I do the vertical too. If I could hit margins of 30% on an affordable housing product, I would do that all day long because I know the demand's there, right? Mm-hmm. And not just me, but D.R. Horton would do that left and right, and the Lennars of the world, right? You just can't. Between the labor shortages, we're back in, I think it was like 2009, we had 13 million contractors. Right after that crash, we lost 2.5 million. Right, it's a massive gap, and so labor shortages are a big problem. We know this, the supply chain. So my guys can build a home as cheap as $140, $150 a square foot, and that doesn't include land. So just do the math. If you want a 1,500 or 2,000 square foot home, I can't build it for under $300,000 at cost, plus the land cost.
Yeah. So let's actually talk about that. There's at least one. There might be two tiny home. I'm using that in air quotes. Developments in Austin, right? And they are charging north of $100,000 plus lot rent on their land that they're getting. These people they're paying it gladly, right? So you're saying that you can't. That doesn't hit your 30% margin if you have a condensed area like that with. So typically smaller 400 square foot homes.
Okay, so one model that we're looking at, and I probably shouldn't be telling you all this, but
tell us.
Here we go.
Yes!
So we all know that the mobile home park model is like that. That's like the perfect model of all time from a risk standpoint, from how you make cash flow, from the seller financing. But I think where many people have gotten it wrong is the product and the product tenants that you're giving it to, right? There's a guy in Palm Springs, dwell.com, if you want to check it out. This dude is killing it, and his concept's fantastic. He's basically building these fancy tiny homes, 600 to 800 square feet, right? Targeting these millennials. He's selling them for like 200 grand a piece on seller financing notes, probably at 8, 9, 10%, right? And he's charging, like a mobile home, the lot rents. So the dude has all protection, the same risk. He has a better tenant class that see Airbnbs. And so that's a model that could work for seniors and for, I think this, is
that not it?
It's a blog, he's on the blog. If you type in like Palm Springs tiny home community, and you got to see this. Okay. Yeah. Just go to Google and type in tiny homes, Palm Springs community.
Bro, I've been saying that tiny homes are mobile homes for millennials for a long time. So.
Yes. But also seniors, right? So you have a very underserved market. Right there, it's the right there, tiny homes in Palm Springs. So this guy, right, really
That's
small.
The same website. Okay.
Yeah. So he's he's probably building 6 to 8 units per acre, which is super dense. Typically in subdivisions, we get 4 to 5 houses per acre. So he's 2 times the density. His costs are probably 100 grand per unit. Flat ceilings, 9 foot, really basic. I mean, and they're probably
looks like a Lennar home.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty basic. Right. And so the dude's selling them for $250,000 a piece. Really straightforward here. So I think this is a product that could work for seniors and for millennials.
Dude, I'm ready. You don't know, this like gets me pumped. Like I want to run out of this room right now and go do this. That's how exciting this stuff is to me. Because you're right. I mean, most people don't understand how hands off that is when you're getting lot rent. You're able to seller finance. Then if they don't pay, you're the one that's repossessing, so you still have the asset.
100%.
Like it's the ultimate business model.
Yeah, this is the only real estate that Warren Buffett owns.
Yeah.
By the way. So
is tiny homes?
Well, mobile homes. It's the same concept, just a different tenant class, right?
Right.
So this is a way to do it. Beyond that, I think the only way that you could do it at scale is to build what will probably be some sort of projects looking situation, right? Like we can build duplexes pretty cheaply, 125 a square foot, but then you're talking about row homes. That's not a great product. So I don't know. I don't have an answer for an affordable product that's a single family under $250,000. I just don't. In fact, I don't know how D.R. Horton and Lennar do it. Like they're stamping those homes for $225 a piece. Isn't
D.R. Horton still the largest landowner? I mean, they probably bought it a long time ago where they're still able.
Yeah, that's true. I know up in north they're definitely a big one. They're also one of the worst builders to work with. FYI.
D.R. Horton or Lennar?
D.R. Horton. They have very shisty maneuvers in their negotiations.
I would have said Lennar, but okay. I've worked with D.R. Horton on the buy side a few times. I mean, on our side, I would take them over Lennar personally, but
so what happens is, right? So like this big one that we're doing for 450 lots, they said that they want all the lots. Now we know what happens in their negotiations. It'll come down to the 9th inning. And they will say, actually change our mind. We only want a third. And then we're in a scramble to sell the lots. And then they have more negotiating power. Right. So we love David Weekley, Dries, Taylor Morrison, Castle Rock even. I mean, they're really solid, high integrity builders.
Yeah, I asked that question in the private chat because I was actually like putting that to ask on the channel. All those builders I've worked with, I've had a great experience, but they also build a higher dollar product. I mean, I none of those of what you just said, I see anything under 500K.
Oh yeah.
And Tom, just to address Joel's comment about Warren Buffett owning Braun and so many other things, that's not his personal stake, right? That's in one of his
REITs probably. His
REITs.
Yeah, he has said in a 2009 interview that if he could buy 100,000 single family homes and rent them all out, he would. The problem is scaling up. So if he has a way to do it, then
I believe, if I'm not mistaken, he is actually I don't know what role he has, but he has a huge role in Clayton Homes, the homes themselves, the mobile.
I think you're right. Yeah,
that makes sense. So I pulled this up on the feed, Jeremy. I haven't shared, and just I saw this article come up a couple days ago. Yeah. So look, 72 square foot, almost $1,400 a month, $1,350. Isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm.
72 square feet.
I used to live in Tokyo, and it was always shocking to me how people live in these small places, like really tiny, 20 square meters, right? But 70 square feet is
that is a bathroom.
Yeah.
Right? It's just like, it's not even a primary bath. It's just that's a powder room.
Ian, can I live in your bathroom?
If I could rent it out for $1,400 a month, yeah. Gosh. And I've seen that. I saw somebody who had, like, back when we were Airbnb Superhosts, I remember looking around for a competition. There were this lady, she had a 4-bedroom house and she was renting out either the whole house or every bedroom and the couch. I was like, what?
Wow.
It's genius. It's so smart.
I don't know that I want to rent out my couch to somebody. I got a
Half the
9-year-old.
cost, still get 300 a night in the right
Yeah.
spot. It's pretty great.
Yeah, I don't know. So, Tom, what do you think the price point? Like, what do you think the price point is that you're going to go after in Austin with some of these developers? Like, what is in the areas you're looking at? What is the best price point to be?
Yeah,
at?
we are on the low end. We're looking at 350, which I don't think we'll go that low, but probably 350 to about $600,000. That's where we're playing. That's where we see demand, and we can build a product that makes money in the fours. So now, I personally, if I'm building myself, I'm in the $500,000 to $600,000 range. I don't have the efficiencies of D.R. Horton, so I'm a little pricier. But 2,400 square foot home, single story farmhouse, 2-car garage, acre lots.
Can you please give us what are the best places to buy land with below 100K in the Austin suburbs?
Do you want Travis County? Because if you do, you're not going to find it.
I don't think you're going to find that in any of the existing.
You could find, there are lots that you can buy from developers for 100K. I think the team here, they can answer it too. Where do you see the most population growth happening? I think sooner you'll see it in the south and southeast than you would in the north. Georgetown's a gem. I think it's a gem of a city all around it. Love Georgetown. But I would look going south all the way down, past Kyle and east, southeast, past Lockhart.
You thinking like Seguin?
Yeah, Seguin. Anything. That's where the growth is going to go here, right? And it also depends on what you're trying to do. If you're trying to build, that's up to you, I guess. Where do you want to live? But if you're trying to do a buy and hold, I think you got to be south, southeast, or west.
Yeah, buy and hold's different. My price point on a buy and hold is going to be different. Like to buy and live in, I guess, not buy and hold as a rental. Sorry. If you're going to buy and live, like your price point, if it's a 350 price point, you're going to try to find somewhere closer to Austin or closer to your job. If you're looking for rentals, you really don't care as long as it's in probably a 30 to 45 minute drive to either downtown, Tesla, Samsung.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. If you're a cash flow rental investor, I actually think up by Fort Hood, which by the way is the biggest military base in the United States, they have a massive shortage of housing right now for their soldiers. Soldiers are being forced to live in hotels. That's why we're building up there our duplexes, because there's no rentals up there in Belton, Temple, and whatnot.
Does that impact? That obviously impacts Killeen too. So you're saying all of those areas.
Killeen's got some problems. If I would first go to Belton, Temple, if I'm going to be up in the Fort Hood area, and then if I had to, I'd buy in Killeen for a rental.
Closer to 35 or further out along 95?
As west as Copper's Cove, and then east. Salado is going to be a big town too. I think that's probably one of the most hidden gems there is right now. Is
absolutely
Salado.
Land too.
Yeah, I love Salado.
Kevin says anywhere that there's a Caterpillar.
Cute little downtown too that nobody knows about.
Yeah, Salado has this little like artesian brewery, live music, wine spot. It's not big, but it's really charming. It's a good spot, and if you're there on a Saturday, it's booming.
Yeah, and a lot of people that drive up.
Yeah. Master Jedi wants to know, why do you hate New Braunfels?
Oh, I don't hate New Braunfels.
Okay, good. No,
it's not one of those places where you can go and get a deal, right? It's not easy.
Well, here's what's crazy. So I put a new build under contract with Gian, and we're all in at 330. Their base price right now is in the 400s, just the base price, and you got to add 35. I think they say you have to add in a minimum of 35 grand in upgrade. So you're 435, 100 grand would have already, and it's not done. Talk about things that are taking forever. I'm not going to go yell at the builder when I know I have 120,000 in equity already in a house. But Master Jedi does want to know why you hate California.
Good question.
No, I don't hate California. I love the food. Napa's fantastic. Great parks, beautiful drives, and everything. It's a great state until you get into the anti-business of it all. It just. I think it depends on what you care about. I want to see growth, and I mean, not to get political, but that COVID shutdown really, it's going to take 15 years to replace that GDP that was just lost. And the question ultimately is, I don't know if that was effective or not. Let's see out of the politics of it. But Texas and Austin seem to kind of manage the COVID thing in a decent manner. And we're still rocking and rolling, right? There's some venues that got some pain. There's some issues that we had here for sure. But, you know, I mean, I heard of a regulation in Beverly Hills. You cannot fly a kite in Beverly Hills. Someone spent 12 months to create a policy on flying kites. Now you got to ask yourself, is that a place where you want to live, where you're just
you don't want the kids to have joy?
Yeah, man, I'm not trying to deal with that noise and the constant pain in the ass. Like, can we just live life and enjoy, like have a beer outside? You know.
Well, that's the beautiful part about Austin. That's the selling feature for me, is especially if you go down towards like, you know, Dripping Springs or somewhere like that.
Yeah, it's fantastic out there.
Oh, it's beautiful.
It's awesome.
Stanley's Farmhouse, grab a slice of pizza. Yeah, I'm in.
Yeah. And by the way, you know, the money that I save in my income taxes, I can go out and, you know, buy 4 times the amount of beers or whiskey or whatever it is.
Yeah, we have some good bourbons out.
Waterloo.
Is it Harrison? Harrison, yeah, Waterloo, yeah. But Harrison Brothers. My friend just sold me $140 bottle of bourbon. It was the best bourbon I've ever had. So,
yeah, no, it's great, man. I mean, look, I don't hate California. It's still one beautiful state. It's gorgeous, you know. They just got some policy issues. So,
yeah, I'm with you. So thoughts on Wild Horse Ranch? I mean, I think I would just pay attention to the tax rate is the main thing. I mean, that's the biggest problem. I mean, we work on different sides of this, right? I mean, you do the development side of it. We work with the clients who have to pay those taxes from the PIDs. The major thing I have to tell you is those taxes do go up. And like, you know, a lot of the builders, and I'm not saying Tom, but I'm saying a lot of the builders will tell you, okay, the tax rate's this, and they don't really explain what that means. And so, and really a realtor should be like warning you if they don't. But like, let's say there's a 2.96 or 3.04 tax rate. You're buying a $350,000 home. You're looking at like $9,000 to $12,000 in property taxes a year. Like, how does that going to end? But your first year, if you buy a new build home, that's not really factored into anything. They're just kind of estimating, and that'll go up because the tax district wants their money, right? Yeah. They need it. So, that's the biggest thing for me is kind of educating home buyers on property taxes. So just be aware of your property taxes there.
Yeah. Now you do get that is it 10 or 15 grand as a tax write-off in the end of the year? So
it's 10. Yeah,
10 grand. So it's really the luxury homes that got hit pretty hard, right? So that property tax, take that times 0.75. That's effectively what you're going to pay in the end.
Here's a good one. Ian, I want you to answer this one.
Is that the one where they can't finish the houses right now?
That's everywhere.
Oh, okay. Just making sure.
Pioneer. I like Pioneer Hills. I think.
I was actually going to buy one in there, and I was mad that I couldn't because of I didn't want to wait for it.
So, Tom, do you do any investments in properties, like buying rental properties, or do you just do all land development?
Yeah, I do. I have a small portfolio, like 12, 14 properties, give or take. Single family left. I own in Indiana, a few left there. I used to own in Ohio, got out of that market. Alabama, around Huntsville, it's a really good market. I own some properties there, and then Texas.
If you were going to buy another one today and it wasn't in Austin, where would you buy?
I love Chattanooga, Clarksville, out in Tennessee. I think Durham is going to blow up. If you haven't
North Carolina?
Durham, yeah. So there's Raleigh, right? Raleigh, we call it Raleigh, whatever. Raleigh it's already kind of growing and it's priced out. Durham's kind of been like the black sheep of that area, and it's set to boom. The whole urban core is going to blow up. So, but I love Chattanooga. I think think of it as like the Boise of Tennessee. And I've heard from locals that Des Moines, Iowa is a good one too right now. So
I'm not sure what that analogy is. Maybe you can expand. The Boise of Tennessee.
Boise? Yeah. So, Boise, right? It's like this outdoorsy kind of mountain
taters,
mountain women. Yeah. It's if you look at Chattanooga, it's essentially like an outdoorsy kind of city as well. right? So it reminds me a lot of the people in Boise as to who's moving there and why they're moving there.
Oh, I've been.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chattanooga's a cool place.
Yeah.
You're from Iowa, right? Is it Slipknotville?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I'm from Illinois.
Illinois.
Yeah. You want to talk about Illinois for a while? We can talk about that, bro.
No,
I think California is
up
bad.
fast.
Yeah, that's like the one West Virginia and Illinois are like the collapsing states, right?
Like Illinois would be like what you hate about the political climate in California, only it's cold 6 months out of the year. That's Illinois.
Yeah, 9 months.
And then 90% of the state is flat farmland. So
yeah,
I mean,
isn't Illinois a state where you have, or just Chicago, where you have to bring in a lawyer to all of your real estate transactions?
Yeah, it's a lawyer.
Oh, yeah.
Like
All
everybody sits in the same room too. That's awkward. That's awkward, bro. And everybody's. I closed on a property there when I bought a property, and I was like, "Oh no, this is not. No, we're not." And no. I don't want any quips. I don't want any jokes. I'm not trying to make friends. Let's get this over with and get out of this room.
My very first closing, I didn't know that you weren't supposed to have both parties at the same time. So I arranged it where we sat across the table. And afterwards, the title rep was like, "Hey, you don't have to do that, right? Like, we can close them separate." I'm like, "Oh, no way." Okay. Many years ago. All right. So Master Jedi has been asking this question impatiently for the last hour. Tom, what are your thoughts on the growth and appreciation of Bastrop for the next 10 years?
10 years, I can't tell you. I mean, I think the linearity of population is going to be that 3 to 4% year over year. So you could probably do the math. I did see a chart recently. Definitely appreciation. I don't think it goes below 4% in any of these markets. You do have Boring Company from Elon that just bought 78 acres out there. He's doubling down too on development. So part of Easton Park is partnering with his solar company. I don't know if you saw that. To build out.
I did a video on it.
Yeah. I don't know what that means. He's a guy that likes to dabble in things. So I could definitely see him and his engineering background coming in and doing some stuff himself. But he's there. And if he's there, that's got to mean good things. Keep in mind, too, Bastrop is only, 15, 20 minutes from where the new Oracle HQ is going to be.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So you look at like where AMD is out in the west, right? So you think about South Mopac out there. That's 10, 15 minutes from AMD, and that's a good indicator on price as to what that might look like. Now, by the way, if you want to know out on that side, I have a friend that works at AMD, and they're trying to get all these people to come to Austin and work at their location here, but they don't have enough office space, and they can't find it to expand, and there's not enough housing. So, these companies are having problems, just like they had in California in terms of housing and affordable housing. So. It's fascinating.
That's sorry. I chuckled at this. Tom, as a metrosexual man, do you think Kevin's headphones are little, girly?
you know.
I'm not a fan of the color white, but beyond that, they're all right.
What color would you prefer? Do you want me to get my pink ones out with the bunny ears?
Yeah,
Like if you're gonna
Not
go
the bunny ears, the kitten ears. I can get those out if you want. I have them over.
If you're gonna go full girly, you gotta go full girly.
So
they're just white.
Pink all the way.
So I have a very important question then. So I was working on a project with a very large company coming out here and reloading people. They used a ton of my information and then took it. They're very known for this. So if you can guess who the company was, took the information and kind of repurposed it and gave it to their people. Starts with a T and ends with an but I was working with that company and helping them with some of their reloads. And anyway, I'm just kidding about that. But now they're coming after me. Shit. No, but they're having a problem with getting people out here. Like the prices are too expensive. They're having problems getting people out here. Yeah. If more businesses run into this affordability problem where we're not getting people out here, do you think that that's going to harm the growth of Austin as well? Do you think there's a point where people just decide not to come out here? That's one. Or if they can work from home, why not just go somewhere else and work in an Austin-based company somewhere else?
Yeah, I mean,
income tax, right?
Yeah, I think people are already moving. I mean, go to Buda, right? What do you see? You see a lot of these hippy dippy artists, people down there in barefoot. I look at, I play too, but they're in barefoot walking outside these studios. It's definitely like that's happening down there. People are moving down there. Go to Georgetown. You're seeing the population really become younger and younger, right? And I think it'll continue. Salado, I think, is another spot where it will draw that young crowd once it's discovered. So I don't know. I mean, Austin's cool if you're like 26, if you're like downtown a lot, but if you're over 30, where do you hang out in Austin? It's
downtown.
Domain.
Well, yeah.
I mean, it depends. Like, there's some cool spots, right, for music and stuff, but like it's
Dripping
definitely
Springs is probably the answer. But
I don't know. I mean,
you're sick of seeing so many people. I think
I'm careful with generalizations like that. To be quite honest, like I don't know that, you know. I think that Austin still has a lot to offer, literally every class and every one, and
I like that.
I mean, maybe maybe the affordability crisis as it is just a re-evaluation of what we can get for our money. Maybe this American dream of the 3-2 with the white fence and a big backyard for our two, you know, golden doodles is just not realistic if you're making 60 grand a year. You know?
Hey, we both have golden doodles.
I know. You guys are quintessential millennials.
Yeah, well.
Yeah, well,
golden
I mean, but
doodles.
To your question though, Jeremy, I guess where I was going with that, Kevin, is that people won't necessarily need to live in Austin, right? Because they can get like out in Dripping Springs, as Jeremy mentioned. There's a lot of cool stuff out there. It's a good spot, right? Bee Cave's got a lot of good stuff too. Again, Georgetown, and I think Maynard's prime for growth in that area too. So I don't know if you have to live in Austin necessarily. You might be okay living 30 minutes to the southeast or southwest or wherever it is.
Well, yeah, and a lot of it's going to depend on how the transportation unfolds, and we talk about that a lot on this channel too, right? So if we end up with any tunnels, that's going to be exciting. But also just if the rail system expands, that alone is great. And there's toll roads being put everywhere. So yeah, I think that'll be fine. Yeah.
They'll have to widen. If they put in or they bring Disney out there, they're gonna have to make the 130 like 15 lanes.
It stops in Georgetown though.
Oh,
right.
Man,
So you're on 35 and then you head to Georgetown and then it jumps back on 130.
But Disney in Orlando's not like that, is it? I mean, there's a lot of lanes, but it's not like any different than.
It's not that far from the airport either, though. I mean,
they did put 19 effing toll booths on that north section of Mopac for some reason. Maybe they did this when they built that road, right? Because God knows we needed that.
That's the wrong side. Yeah, I mean, I think I think my problems with Austin for the future of Austin, as far as like development goes, and as far as like the issues that could cause this quote unquote crash. I know some people are trying to say rent to purchase ratio and all this other stuff, like, you know, housing starts and all this stuff is, I think for me, the biggest issues we run into is at what point. I think the biggest indicator of why we're growing so quickly is the amount of companies coming here and the future growth. So that's where we're seeing a 37% growth, like that is the biggest, I think, for me. Why are we seeing a 37% increase, 42% increase, or whatever? It's the future growth that's coming to Austin. If that gets shut off, if businesses can't get people here because it's too unaffordable. I mean, you look at Seattle. Seattle's unaffordable, but people still move there. So I guess, I mean, I'm just stuck in this conundrum. I think that's where interest rates get too high. People can't live here. Prices get too high. Does that shut off the values where it's no longer worth moving to Austin? But then you look at Seattle. There's nothing redeeming about Seattle. I mean, I've been there once. It was terrible.
Yeah. So if you look at the places like Seattle or San Francisco, the Bay Area, or Raleigh, or any of these places that have been kind of established and really, really popular for a while, my question is, how long have people, because I haven't looked at any of this data, but how long have people lived there without moving out of the city? You know,
there's a study done. It's like a sociology study. And first of all, this has been happening for centuries. This is what happens, right? Where there's art and culture and good food and music, people move there. And people with money eventually. Yes. And that obviously gentrifies and then everyone leaves. The Bay Area was so homogenous. people were all wearing the same Patagonia, sweaters, drinking the same blue bottle coffee, wearing the same Allbirds shoes. Everyone was making the same salary within a range. It was so homogenous. I mean, it's so vanilla now. Like there is no art of music. There's nothing left.
Yeah.
Right.
But there's still people there.
Yeah, sure. But
right.
Well, there's a lot of one. They definitely have population outflow, 100%.
Right now, yes.
But it's being replaced by people coming from Taiwan, from China, from India. So they're replacing the population with the people who were once native.
And the outflow is specifically political, right? We can attest to that.
Primarily, it's cost of living and it's taxes and it's regulation. Yeah.
Well, we talked about vaccine mandates last week and people weren't very happy in the chats later in the replay in the video. But I mean, if you think about it, if vaccine mandates come out and some big businesses, I guess, want vaccine mandates, whatever. I'm not talking about the politics of this, but if there's some companies that look at this and go, okay, where can I go where there's not vaccine mandates, where we can have a company or where we have more freedom or we don't have these taxes, they're going to continue to move to places like Texas. Now, maybe not Austin, but Dallas, Houston. So for the future of Texas, I think there's going to be a huge continued inward migration.
Well, I would somewhat argue that in that if I'm going to move to Texas, but I want to still attract the educated, the young millennials that are more in the left leaning, why wouldn't I live in Dallas? That's a purple city, or a very blue city like Austin or Houston, right? I can be in a state of Texas, get all those protections, but still attract people who are attracted to the blue and purple cities.
Right, but I'm saying businesses are going to go to the cities. Right, so businesses that are going to attract all these employees, they're going to move to Austin. Not Austin, but I'm just saying Texas.
Yeah, but let's not get a twist. I mean, Austin, it's liberal for sure, but it's not San Francisco.
And isn't a lot of the reason for the attraction like around the colleges and
UT's a great school. I mean, find me a Whiskey Tango Foxtrot in many other cities. It doesn't really exist. It's hard to find those kind of places left, right? And Austin's just got a great scene for music. It is the scene. That's why everyone's moving here. And by the way, and the food scene's growing too. It's picking up.
Yeah, for me, I still go back into that, and I say I don't subscribe to a lot of the same, beliefs of this is what has happened recently, therefore it's going to continue at this pace or for these reasons into the future. We've already seen a generational shift on people's habits, more of an urbanization of our country, regardless, and so we don't know as millennials or as Gen X or as Gen Z is moving through their lives, we don't know how their generation will approach living. Like they might actually decide, and I see this a lot. I see it myself. I see it in a lot of my colleagues and my friends. They're willing to actually downgrade their ownership of thing in order and they'll pay the same price for the living and location and spend more of their income on the experience versus the actual ownership of the property. That's why I don't know that you can say, well, it's going to continue at this pace in this area, or people move here for this reason, or they go do this. Like, I think there's good reasons for it. And I don't see this ever stopping. I think you're right. Texas, I think, has the best climate for all of that. And I think it will for a very, very long time. But I also I don't know that we'll always be able to say, yeah, these people are going to buy this type of house or they're going to want to live here. I don't think it's going to be like that.
Yeah. I mean, I recall back in 2016, John Burns Consulting is a great firm with their data. By the way, if you want to see some real estate data, go to their Twitter handle and just follow John Burns. It's great. And, he had a report in 2016 that just talked about the migration, right? And back then, before it was COVID, before it was whatever, he had this chart that showed the migration. And basically he was saying people are tired of the cold. So you're seeing a lot of movement from New York and the Midwest to the sunshine states. At the time, that was Arizona, Texas, and the Southeast, right? So even before all this was happening with affordability, people were moving here just for the weather alone, So
I do want to answer this. Like somebody had asked when I first started that, they said, does that mean you have to change the American dream in order to keep up? And I say, yeah, probably. It's probably going to change, but because it's just going to naturally happen.
Yep.
So when I was talking about vaccine mandates, what I was in the wrong. What I was thinking is, so they just announced that they're going to, so that with the $3.5 trillion tax plan or whatever their infrastructure deal or whatever that is, that they're raising on the above 400,000 income to 39%. They're increasing the corporate tax rate and all this other stuff. That's what I meant. Is that going to drive some more of these people out of California? Because you're going to be paying. I mean, look, what's income tax there? Like 15%, something like that, 13?
10 to 14, depending, but typically most people in the 10-12% range. Yeah.
Okay, so
you're going to have 39% income tax on,
but don't forget the 9.5% sales tax.
And that. So do you think that'll continue to drive people to Texas?
Real estate transfer?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like if you haven't left the Bay Area by now, like what are you waiting for? Like what's going on? Like, I mean, if you got family there, I get it. If your job keeps you there, then that's unfortunate. Or if you bought a house in the 70s through 2010, 100% get it. Otherwise, I don't know why you still live there.
Go feed your kid.
Yeah, Angela, go feed him.
No, give him a hot pocket and have him sit on your lap.
Yeah,
and watch
hot pocket.
Yeah, I heard about real estate.
Okay, here's an interesting question. Maybe we're not asking this. What if California becomes the scorned wife or husband or whatever, and says, "Wait a second, I don't want everybody to leave. I want to change." And now all of a sudden, let's say California has so many people leaving that at some point they say, we have to change our climate. And then they change their political climate or financial climate to make it more attractive to businesses. Is that enough of a reason to see people changing? Or do you think that we still, as an area like in Texas, still, no matter what the other areas do, are offering something that is going to continue to grow?
Well, I don't know. From living there, I mean, you still have problems like infrastructure, traffic, affordability, homelessness, school problems, crime, poverty. I mean, you still have the wildfires, lack of water.
just
so like there's still a long list of things beyond just taxes, right?
Yeah, but it's beautiful. It's a great place to be. I mean, realistically, if you didn't deal with some of those things, like, why wouldn't you want to live there? I guess is my question. I mean, I will never live anywhere else but Austin because I think it's God's country. I came here as quick as I could, but that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, like I do. I love Carmel and Santa Rosa and St. Helena outside of Napa, and even Sacramento is a pretty cool town. It just
I can't believe you just said that.
It's not a bad town.
I lived in the Central Valley. Trust me, I hate everything in Central California. I can't do it. Yeah. I lived there for too many years. The terrible smog or the terrible air quality, cow
allergies. Whoa. Cows.
Yeah.
You can't say cows. We've got cows.
We have cows, but we don't. No. No.
Got a lot of cows.
We have cows. We don't have dairies. Dairies are all over the Central Valley. It is nothing but cow butts gross. And cow tits just getting that milk out, man. It is just like all of my friends growing up. Oh, all my friends growing up own dairies. Yeah.
All of Illinois.
Yes, all of Illinois, bro.
Read my
corn,
comment.
soybeans, pigs.
Yep.
Cattle.
Yeah.
No goats.
Yeah.
Thank God.
Fried butter. There's a lot of fried butter there.
But Sacramento is better. Yes, you're right. But just the thought of thinking of Central California makes me want to vomit.
I'm trying to give California something to hang on to.
I mean, from affordability standpoint, Central Valley is more affordable than a lot of the coast. Yeah. I mean, there's that. Okay, so I will say one nice thing about Central California. Here it is that the location of Central California is actually great. You're 2 hours away from snowboarding, skiing, whatever you want to do there. True. You're right. I mean, you're probably 45 minutes, depending on where you are, to lakes. And then to go to the beach is about 2 hours. So Central California, that's the only redeeming, like when I fly in, I just go to the coast, which is 2 hours away. So I don't stay in Central Valley too long.
Let's talk about Central Texafornia. Austin. Let's talk about Austin.
Oh yeah, and the Sierras, there's that too. They catch on fire.
Ouch.
Yeah.
Here's one for you all, and I don't know enough about it, but that tiny home model I've considered doing up there, up in Waco, given that there's a college community up there.
It's pronounced Wacko, by the way.
Oh, wacko. Yeah, wacko.
What? It's the same thing.
What do you think? I mean, do you all know enough to comment on Waco, and what do you think is going to be happening there beyond just the Magnolia Network?
You took my comment. No,
yeah,
it's a good question. It's a good question.
I mean, I don't know, and I don't necessarily know that. Like my goal in my business and my job is to help my clients, put their money in the right places, whether they're living here, or whether they're investing here, or whether they're developing here. My goal is to make sure that Austin is what I specialize in. I honestly don't know or don't even care what Waco would do, because for me it seems like it's too far from Austin and too far from Dallas to receive much of the growth. So something significant would have to go on there before people start really investing more. But I also say this because I tell all of my clients, and the same thing, when people are like, what's a good place to invest? Like, I mean, how much money do you have? Like, if you only have enough to buy one house, why are you stressing over, the marginal difference in returns between one community versus another? Like, over the course of 20 or 30 years, you're not even going to notice.
Yeah. Just live where you want to be happy.
Just live where you want to be happy, or buy assets. Listen, this comes from somebody that has bought and sold assets that I didn't like, that made a lot of money. It didn't matter for me how much money they made. I didn't like the asset. I'd rather make less money and have an asset or a home or something that I really, really like.
Kevin hates assets.
Sets.
No more comments or questions?
Jeremy's kid just came in.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry about that.
You should apologize. Get out of my room, kid. Daddy's working. Go get your hot pocket.
All right. So wait, were you going to talk about Waco or Wacko?
Well,
what were you saying?
To your point, Tom, is there's water, right? Anywhere there's water and a lower cost of living, people, and it's in between two major cities. At some point between Dallas and Austin, I feel like there's going to be a convergence where people are traveling back and forth, and they stop by for Magnolia Market or what have you, and they're like, this is pretty nice, and it's not too busy.
Yeah.
And they're going to stay there.
Yeah.
And then those people are going to have kids or grandkids or something that end up there, and it's going to happen. It's going to happen. And with Austin and Dallas both growing as rapidly as they are. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, what do you combining San Antonio growth, Austin growth, and Dallas? It's got to be 5 or 6 million people in the next 20 years. Like, where do you put all those people?
New Braunfels.
No.
Well,
Mulletville.
Mulletville.
It depends, like you said, also if we go vertical, up or down.
Come to Mulletville, guys. No taxes. We have our own ETJ.
We'll get to it, Walter. Sorry.
Just kidding.
I think, if you look at like my idea of investing, or where I'm looking at places to invest, if you look at the I-35 corridor, is the fastest growing metroplex in the entire United States between San Antonio and Austin. So Kyle's great if you can find something with a good tax rate, if you're buying like single family. New Braunfels, I bought New Braunfels because it was a great tax rate. Rents were there. It was perfect. It's fit all my needs. I would love to buy in Bastrop. I really would, but I haven't found anything. To Tom's point, I haven't found anything that makes sense buying in Bastrop, because you have a lot of water issues there too, where you have flooding in certain parts. The biggest problem with Bastrop, it just has that stigma from the fire still too. So I don't know what to do there. But
and the Houston Toad, man, the Houston Toad.
Yeah.
All over
So there's so many good places still to invest. I feel like the growth, unless companies stop moving here, that is the only caveat to all of this. Like, everything looks so rocky right now. Everybody's talking about crashes. Everybody's talking about, inflation. Everybody's talking about, stuff in the market going to happen in the future, the market crashing. I still look at, if companies stop moving here, that's where I say, okay, we're going to have problems in Central Texas. That's it. But what's going to have to happen for that to happen, though? That's the question. Yeah,
that's part of it, right? But also, I think the cultural aspect is pretty important too. If there's no more venues here, if there's no art, there's no cultural vibrance, that's a big thing too, and that happens with affordability crisis, right? So, that's probably faster to happen than being an anti-business city or state.
All right. So what are your thoughts on Lakeway, everybody? Land in Lakeway. Ooh,
Yeah,
land in Lakeway? Oh, I'd buy land in Lakeway. How
Yeah,
much?
I'm building there. If you can find land, I wouldn't pay. Well, first of all, I'd go to Spicewood. That's 15 minutes west, and it's maybe even prettier, not as developed or dense. I think you get a little better value out in Spicewood, but that won't last long. So you'll have to keep going out west. So
I like Spicewood. I just feel there's nothing really out there yet. So if Spicewood starts to develop a little bit more, then I think you'll see. Hey, Spicewood's beautiful too.
yeah,
Lakeway's beautiful. The problem is like Lakeway 620. I mean, driving down 620, I want to pluck my eyes out.
that's terrible.
I was gonna say, that's the big difference between something like Lakeway and I saw Lago mentioned earlier. Like Lago is really pretty. You can still get some affordable lots and even residential. And the problem is you're landlocked, right? So you have to go all the way around. Lakeway, it doesn't look like it's landlocked, but that's because you haven't driven on 620 yet. So people are driving, buying places out there, and then they just end up not going to the city a whole lot, at least not between the hours of, I don't know, noon and 7.
Yeah. Well, the thing is too, for an acre, you're looking at least 200 grand out there, and that's going to be septic and potentially a well. So you got $40,000 in utilities just to build, plus you got to spend 200 grand for an acre. So I think you have to go west if you're going to be out there. If you can find in Lakeway, like a lot in a neighborhood that's not owned by a developer or builder, great. I don't think there's many out there.
I think Steven nailed it. Leander's a new up and coming Westlake, especially if you're up there in that. What part of it?
I've got some inventory in Bryson if somebody wants to hit me up. Just saying.
Dripping Springs is actually the second highest per capita income outside of Westlake as far as school districts go. It's also the highest per capita adults with post-secondary education degrees.
Yeah, and I think you're away from all the traffic too if you're out in Dripping, right? Like there's some, but it's
No, it's getting a little bit more challenging because 290 is stoplights, and it's going to be like 620 in Lakeway at some point, unless they do something a little bit more. I'd like to see all of Austin and these outside areas have a little bit better handle on the growth and invest in realistic infrastructure. And that to me does not mean diverging diamonds or small sections of toll road. In some cases, I think it's a complete overhaul of how this Dripping Springs will collapse. The city will collapse under the weight of its own people if they don't do something about the fact that everyone in a city of 50,000 people has to go through a 4-way stoplight downtown. I mean, it's just not going to work. It's just not going to work long term. So
no. Yep.
Well, we've hit the hour-and-a-half mark. I think that's Tom. He's got to get a hot pocket. He's fading fast. Just kidding.
lean pockets too.
Lean pockets. Tom, where can people find you, man?
Yeah. So I do. Well, so this is my YouTube channel. It's basically more specialized content for investors, but I do let people invest in these land deals. 20 to 30% returns annually. RedOakVC.com. If you want to get a hold of me, I'll walk you through that process. But we're looking to pick up 2 more land deals this year and then 8 more next year, and we'll probably slow down a little bit and see where the market goes.
I love it. Cool. All right. Any parting words, gentlemen?
If you're going to go for the hot pockets, I recommend the buttery garlic crust ones with extra pepperoni.
Dude, I go classic all day.
If you're going to make lean pockets, I recommend you throw it away and get a hot pocket.
Yeah. I'm going to go grab one right now. Y'all see it.
Yeah. Awesome. Bye.